Oh, boy.
And welcome once again to another episode of Stu Hand Productions Presents
J&M, Solve the World. I am James.
And I am Matt, and with us is our illustrious special guest, Andrew.
Hello. I'm so glad you didn't forget the crickets. Exactly.
Okay, so we need to bring this down. All right,
Sorry
so
about
before we get into tonight's topic, I actually did research on the topic.
Yeah.
But
You took a deep dive.
I did. But I want to talk about the victory parade that the Chiefs had this past Wednesday as we're recording this.
Right.
First one I'd ever been to. And I'm glad I didn't go to the last one because it was like 18 with a wind chill of 25,000.
Below zero.
Yeah. But, I mean, it wasn't that bad. And this time, I mean, I got up close to Travis Kelce.
Mm-hmm.
He's a bigger dude than what you think he is.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you know, everybody thinks offensive line, defensive line, you know, they're big dudes.
Right.
Yeah, when you're up close to them and they're not in uniform, holy fuck.
And they're still big.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, oh, damn.
Kind of like when you seen Harlem Heat at the Shrine Mosque that time.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
There was a certain MVP that drank a lot.
No.
Like, drank so much that he took the Vince Lombardi trophy off the bus, handed it to a fan to get photos with, and then walked off.
Without the trophy.
Without the Vince Lombardi trophy. And apparently, earlier in the route that I saw him, he did that with the MVP trophy as well. But if you're familiar with Kansas City, Grand Avenue, that's where the parade was. Right off of Truman, before you get to 16th Street, there's a strip club. And in lights, it says totally nudes. It could be 6:30 in the morning, and I'm driving by there to go to work. That sign is lit up. Well, a DJ, or the DJ, whatever, moved everything up to the roof.
Oh, no shit.
And they were playing music and everything, and I don't know if it happened further up the route or further down the route, but at noon, when the parade started, off of 6th Street, they had somebody on this rooftop sing the national anthem.
Cool.
Holy shit. She was good. And in Kansas City fashion, home of the Chiefs. But to hear, because I've heard it at Arrowhead.
Right.
You've heard it on TV. But on the street, oh my God.
How many people did they estimate was there at the parade?
Between 800 and 1 million.
Wow.
Tech 9.
So basically 100% more than, 10 times more than will fit in Arrowhead Stadium.
Yes.
Because it's 80,000.
Yeah.
Thereabouts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There were people like one of our sales reps.
So what you're saying is not a goddamn thing got done in Kansas City that day at any business.
Food joints.
Well,
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, as far as factory workers or
Yeah.
body shops or anything like that, everybody was there.
Yeah. They because our office they took a poll of who was going to the parade. Yeah. Who was going to the parade. And our boss was just like, all right, we're just going to call it.
Right.
So none, and that's the thing is they had majority of downtown Kansas City closed off. So deliveries weren't getting done anyways. And for all of you out there, whose phone was that?
My bad.
All of you out there,
I turned mine on down.
That think that I have jumped ship, I am still 100% Raider Nation. But you can go back in the archives and you can see it in October of last year. I called for a fucking Kelsey Bowl. I said it.
Yep.
I want a Kelsey Bowl.
Yep.
And I had
Even though you didn't have those two teams picked in the Super Bowl.
Correct. And you know, right. I mean, I went with the Raiders because Raider Nation.
Right.
But unlike everybody else that was talking shit on the Chiefs at the beginning of the season because they lost Tyreek, they lost Tyrann Mathieu, you know, oh, it's a rebuilding season.
Right.
And Mahomes said it best on the stage. He's like, everybody said that we were rebuilding this season. I don't know what that means because
Rebuilding to win another Super Bowl this year?
he's like, I don't know what that means because we're here.
Right.
But yeah, and then
Was there any accidental F-bombs dropped by Mr. Mahomes?
I don't know because I didn't go down to Union Station. One of our guys had taken that day vacation, and him and his parents, he's one of the younger guys, him and his parents got down to Union Station at like 5 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, shit.
And there was already a crowd.
Wow.
I mean, they did a drone when Tech 9, of course, sang Red Kingdom live, and he had said it, this is the biggest crowd I've ever played to in my entire life. And they did a drone shot, and it went out, and I mean, it's just a sea of red.
Right.
But
cool.
it was pretty cool.
Congratulations to the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yes.
Chiefs Kingdom.
Yeah. Anyways, on to the topic for tonight.
Right.
The GOAT.
The GOAT.
What it means, who we think it is, and then according to some reputable websites, what they're calling.
Right.
I cite CBS Sports and
Fake news.
yeah. Oh yeah. Fake news.
Fake news.
GOAT, greatest of all time.
Right.
We're going to talk about not only
The reason I even thought about this topic was
Please.
the LeBron James capturing the scoring record from Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
right.
And all the radio pundits are going, oh, is LeBron now the GOAT of the NBA? Blah, blah, blah. I'd like to say right off the bat, I do not follow the NBA. Could care less about the NBA. Nothing against the NBA. But even as somebody who doesn't follow it, you can't not hear about it.
Right.
It's on every sports coverage. Even when the season's not going on, they're talking about NBA, blah, blah, blah. That being said, my GOAT is always going to be Michael Jordan.
Yes.
I'd buy that.
You know, there was a meme on Facebook. It was funny. When the Lakers won the championship a year or two ago, whatever it was, they asked Michael Jordan, said, well, do you think your Bulls teams could beat that Lakers team? And he said, yeah. So what do you think the score would be? It's like, yeah, we beat them by 5 or 6. And they go, well, why so low? He goes, because we're almost 60.
Yeah. And you know what?
I've seen that one too.
Yeah.
To be completely honest, I think it could happen
Yeah.
because, you know, Jordan, Pippen, Steve Kerr, Dennis Rodman, Tony Kukoc, Luke Longley, Bill, you know, just get all these guys back and, oh, yeah.
You know, and LeBron's there's an argument for LeBron, but when it comes down to the final seconds of the game, who do you want to have the ball?
Right.
It's fucking Jordan. I mean, LeBron,
Yeah.
he's going to get you there, you know.
Yeah.
And yes, Jordan had a team around him.
Jordan built that team.
Right. But I mean, you had Pippen, you had, I'm drawing a blank on the guy with all the tattoos.
Dennis Rodman.
Yep. You had all them guys. But Jordan was the guy that would curb stomp you to win.
Yes.
It was just.
I mean, there's so many videos you can see on YouTube right now of NBA players who was taught a lesson because they were trash talking Jordan, and Jordan just took it to him. All right. So, according to CBS Sports, and this is dated January of this year, and they ranked like the top 9 GOATs, and they've got them in order, and it's all over the place. NBA, Major League Baseball, NHL, boxing, but they've got it in, So at number 9, Gordie Howe.
Okay.
He was active in the NHL from 1946 to 1971, and then again 1979 to 1980.
1946?
Yes.
Wow.
4 championships. No Conn Smythes, the postseason MVP. They didn't start that until 65.
Okay.
But he has 6 Hart Memorials, which is league MVPs. Nicknamed Mr. Hockey, he had the NHL scoring record before Gretzky showed up. He led the league in goals 5 times, assists 3 times, and points 6 times.
See, that's another sport I don't follow that close.
Yeah, me neither.
And I would have said Gretzky just because.
Right.
He
the oldest player to play in the NHL at 52 years, 10 days. He won 4 titles in 5 seasons and appeared in 11 Stanley Cups. And the 4 titles were all done with the Detroit Red Wings during the original 6 era. Number 8.
less competition.
Or more competition, because you got players that are really vying for that spot, so you're playing your ass off. At number 8 is Mickey Mantle, 1951 to 1968.
See, I think, to me, baseball would be a hard one to have a GOAT of all time. Just because of, you might say a greatest pitcher.
Yep.
Greatest catcher.
Greatest hitter.
First baseman, second baseman, center fielder.
But as far as the greatest overall player, I think it'd be a hard one to say.
Yeah.
Because
you can split that up.
You got to look at Yadier Molina.
Right.
He's got to be considered for the GOAT of catchers.
Right.
Go ahead.
Okay. So, Mickey Mantle, 7 championships, 0 World Series MVPs, because that didn't start until 1955. 3 league MVPs. Another catalyst in the Yankees dynasty in the 50s, etching himself as one of the greatest baseball players ever. Mantle's 18 home runs are the most in World Series history, as he played in 12 of them. Mantle led the American League in home runs 4 times, runs 5 times, and winning the AL Triple Crown in 56. Finished with 536 home runs and 1,509 RBIs while hitting a .298 for his career.
Pretty salty.
Number 7 is Joe DiMaggio. Now, Joe DiMaggio, active from 1936 to 1942, and then 1946 to 1951.
Because he wouldn't serve in the military.
Yes. 9 championships. 3 league MVPs, no World Series MVPs, yada, yada. Missed 3 years of his prime to serve in World War II, and still is one of the greatest players in baseball history. His 9 World Series are second only to Berra, winning 4 in a row from 36 to 39 to begin his career, and 3 in a row from 49 to 51 to finish it. So that tells me, baseball is a team sport. It's a big-time team sport. But you win 4, and then you go fight in the big war, And you come back and you win 3 more.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and here again, we could talk about eras.
Yeah.
Because there was no free agency back then.
Right.
You know, the team basically could keep a team together.
Mm-hmm.
They could keep all them guys together. Where nowadays, say you had an Albert Pujols when his contract ran out after 5 years, and he goes to the highest bidder.
Yeah.
You know, back then there was none of that because there was no free agency. So
Well,
you could keep all them guys together.
Yep.
For longer periods of time. That's why the Yankees have 27
Yeah.
World Series championships. And,
Well,
and you can tell in the modern era, even though they're one of the highest payroll teams out there, they haven't won a championship in
a long time.
20 years now,
Yeah.
something like that.
And now it's like teams are keeping players together because the players want to stay together.
Right.
But
It's
I
like
mean,
Pujols coming back last year to the Cardinals.
yeah.
I mean, he could have, I don't know if he could have made any more money anywhere else, but if they'd have known what he was going to do last year, he'd have probably got a lot more somewhere else.
Yeah.
But
you know, the whole players traveling around to get the championships. And, you know, and again, I'm not taking anything away from LeBron, but his championships are a few here, one here, a few here, where Jordan
not all
made
Chicago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He made that team to get better.
He took off to play baseball for a little bit.
Yeah. Number 6, Yogi Berra. 46 to 63, and then again in 65. 10 championships. 3 league MVPs. The gold standard of Major League Baseball with his championships. Berra won a World Series ring for every finger. Berra was in 14 World Series with his New York Yankees team, winning 10 of them. He even caught the only perfect game in postseason history. A career 285 hitter with 358 home runs and 1,439 RBIs. Berra is one of the greatest catchers in baseball history. Berra is tied with Ray. I'm not even going to try that. Most MVPs by a catcher in Major League history, and the most in the American League.
So they'd not have to go back on my Yadier Molina comment, and since Berra was a catcher.
But again, different times.
Different times.
Right.
Number 5, Wayne Gretzky, 1979 to 1999. 4 championships, 2 postseason MVPs, 9 league MVPs. This is where the list became increasingly difficult, especially since Gretzky is still the all-time NHL points leader. If you take away his 894 goals. No player in the major North American sports can claim the individual records like Gretzky. Gretzky is the great one for a reason. While he only has 4 Stanley Cup titles, he owns every NHL scoring record. Gretzky has the most goals, 894, assists, 1,963, and points, 2,857 in NHL history, winning a record 9 Hart trophies as league MVPs. He leads the NHL in assists per game, 1.32, and points per game, 1.92, while having the most hat tricks, 50, even strength goals, 617, and shorthanded goals, 73. Gretzky led the NHL in points 11 times, assists 16 times, 13 consecutive seasons, seasons, and goals 5 times. He has 81 goals and 171 assists in 121 playoff games, the catalyst behind the Edmonton Oilers dynasty of the 1980s. Gretzky won 4 titles in 5 years with the Oilers and appeared in 6 Stanley Cup finals overall, likely winning more if he didn't spend the whole second half of his career outside of Edmonton. So, yeah, I mean...
I can't argue with that.
Yeah. Again, and
You
this
could
is,
argue with that, but why?
Well, but this
Well,
is the
there
reason
again,
why...
I don't follow hockey enough
I don't either.
to argue with that.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
I can spell hockey. That's about it.
Well, and this is the reason why I did this.
Right,
is
right. I get it.
These are stats. I mean, these are hard, cold facts.
Chiseled in stone.
Number 4, Bill Russell. 56 to 69. 11 championships.
Yep.
No finals MVPs because that didn't start until 69, but 5 league MVPs. Russell has the most championships of any athlete in the 4 major North American sports, winning 11 championships in 12 NBA Finals appearances. So he went 11-1.
That's pretty good.
He made the NBA Finals in all but one of his 13 seasons in the league. Russell led the NBA in rebounds per game 5 times, averaging 22.5 rebounds per game in his career. Russell is second in NBA history in rebounds, 21,620, and rebounds per game, 22.5, while earning a reputation as arguably the greatest defensive player in league history. His 5 MVP awards are tied with Michael Jordan for the second most in NBA history. The Wilt Chamberlain debate will rage on forever, but Russell's championships put him into the GOAT conversation. Hard to envision any player making 12 NBA Finals, especially a player winning 8 in a row.
But if you throw in Wilt's off-court conquests,
Well,
he's got to be number 1.
That's another podcast.
All on its own.
Right.
Now this next...
Who had more, Wilt Chamberlain or Ric Flair?
No. Like I said,
I'm gonna throw
that's
another
another
one.
podcast.
Gene Simmons?
There it is. All right.
We're talking athletes here.
Yeah. So
There's another podcast there, folks. Stay tuned for the next one.
this next one, very controversial, and ruffles a whole lot of feathers with a whole lot of people.
Boy.
Number 3, Tom Brady,
Whatever.
2000 to 2022, because he filed his paperwork with the NFL to officially retire.
Finally.
2000.
7.
He was on. Yeah, that's right, 2000. Because it was a 2001 season that
Yeah.
he won the Super Bowl
7.
against my Rams.
7 championships, 5 Super Bowl MVPs, and 3 league MVPs. Brady is the greatest winner in the NFL has ever seen and the greatest quarterback.
So Patty Mahomes has got 2, 2, and 2.
Yes.
So he's on his way.
Oh, yeah. Well, and they said going into the Super Bowl, in order for him to be in the conversation and like be on that trajectory to reach that height, he would need to win this Super Bowl.
I heard something today that Patrick Mahomes has got over Brady already. He has been on 2 first-team All-Pro teams.
Well, I mean,
And he's 27. Well, he'll be 27 opening day next
Yep.
year. It took Brady till he was 30 to get to 2 first-team All-Pro teams.
well, Mahomes has something that Brady never got, and that's league and Super Bowl MVPs in the same season. Nobody has done that since 1999 when Mr. Kurt Warner did it with the St. Louis Rams.
Yep.
The greatest quarterback, his 624 passing touchdowns and 84,520 passing yards are the most in the NFL history. He has the most Super Bowl MVPs in NFL history, while he is the only NFL player with 7 championships. What Brady has accomplished past the age of 37 is a Hall of Fame career in and of itself. Proving longevity in the NFL solidified his GOAT status. No disrespect to Jim Rice, Jerry Rice, or Jim Brown, but Brady is the greatest player in league history. For everything Brady has accomplished, it's hard to put him past the 2 titans of North American sports. Brady is right there with them, with all the NFL records he has set, and he can even pass them if he continues his Dord pace through his 40s, which he has officially retired. Now, number 2, the Babe, the great Bambino, the Sultan of SWAT, Babe Ruth, 1914 to 1935. 7 championships. No World Series MVPs because that didn't start until 55. No league MVPs because that didn't start until 31. Ruth isn't just one of the greatest baseball players ever. He's one of the greatest athletes ever. If there were the current version of the MVP award in the 1920s, Ruth would have won every year. He led the American League in runs 8 times. Home runs 12 times. Twice past the age of 35. RBIs 5 times and walks.
And he's also had a no-hitter.
Yeah.
He was a pitcher, too.
Oh.
The first of his career when he was with Boston.
A career 342 hitter, Ruth ended his career with 714 home runs and 2,214 RBIs. He's 4th all-time in runs scored, 2,174, 3rd in home runs, and 2nd in RBIs. He holds the all-time record in slugging percentage at .690 and OPS 1.164. Ruth played in 10 World Series, winning 7 of them, and had a career .326 batting average with 15 home runs in the World Series. He also had a ridiculous .87 ERA in the World Series dead ball era.
And his extracurricular activity conquest was right up there with Wilt Chamberlain's.
Yes.
Blair and Gene Simmons.
Ruth makes it to the Hall of Fame as a pitcher, earning him 94 wins and 140 starts and a 2.28 era, most of which was in the dead ball era. There is a baseball GOAT, and it's Ruth. No matter the time he played, like Brady, Ruth was larger than life. Number 1, GOAT of all time. According to CBS Sports, Michael Jordan.
I'd buy that.
1984 to 1993, 1995 to 1998, 2002 to 2003. 6 NBA championships.
Okay.
6 NBA Finals MVP. 5 league MVPs. And the reason why he didn't get 6, I saw the video on it. I can't remember off the top of my head who it was. It was Karl Malone. They gave Karl Malone the MVP one year. And
the mailman.
Yes.
Malone.
And Jordan was pissed. And he fucking hammered on Malone.
How would you like to have been a Karl Malone or any of those guys that played during the Jordan era?
Oh.
I mean,
that played against him?
No, that's what I mean.
Oh,
or just
God.
played at the same time.
No.
You could have been the greatest player ever, but there was Jordan.
Yeah.
But you're being compared to Jordan,
Well, Jordan just beat you at everything.
Right,
As good as Charles Barkley was.
Right.
Yeah.
Patrick Ewing was with the Knicks.
And he was the tail end of Larry Bird's career.
Yeah.
Of course, he had go against Magic all those years.
Yeah. Jordan is the greatest player in NBA history. Sorry, LeBron James fans. The Chicago Bulls have 6 championships in 8 seasons because of Jordan's dominance. The closest the NBA has ever seen to what the Boston Celtics did under Russell in the 1960s. Jordan retired for 18 months, or the Bulls may have won 8 in a row.
Right.
Yeah. Hey, everybody needs to take a little time off from.
Jordan averaged 33.6 points per game in the finals and won 6 NBA Finals MVPs in 6 trips. The most
He never
in NBA
lost a
history.
final.
No. They never went to a game 7 either.
Right.
They won it in 6.
Yep.
The Bulls never played in a game 7 in the finals thanks to Jordan's dominance. Jordan's 5 MVP awards are tied with Russell's for the second most in NBA history, only behind Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He's a 10-time scoring champion, winning in the 9 consecutive full seasons and led the league in steals per game 3 times. Jordan was an all NBA selection 11 times and 9-time all NBA defensive team selection, winning Defensive Player of the Year once.
So that means he wasn't just a ball hawk; he was also a defender.
Right. So I mean, what'd you think of CBS Sports' list?
Of the top 4 American sports, that's pretty well spot on, I would think.
Yeah.
You know, I'd forgot about Bill Russell.
Bill Russell.
Bill Russell. Thank you. Thank you.
You can go back on Babe Ruth, and you can criticize because of the era. Mm-hmm. He wasn't playing against any African American players.
Right.
You know, would his stats been that great if he'd have been facing those pitchers or whatever?
Right.
You know, Brady, you can't argue with the numbers.
I mean, he's good.
You
Don't
can't
get me
argue
wrong.
with the numbers. But the first 3, if it hadn't have been for Adam Vinatieri's leg, he might not have won those. So let's say he didn't win those. Let's say Adam Vinatieri missed those kicks. Okay. Then he's at 4. And if the Seattle Seahawks hadn't have been stupid and threw the ball on 1st and goal for an interception, then handed it off to beast mode. And by the way, I can't stand the Seattle Seahawks either. But it's like, what the fuck are you doing? You got the best running back in the league that year.
Yep.
And you pass on 1st and goal? Then that would have put Brady down to 3. But if ands, and buts were candy and nuts, we'd all have a Merry Christmas.
Yes.
But
You'll have to write that down.
And then during the same time frame, the rules started changing.
Mm-hmm.
And the protect the quarterback.
You know,
You look at Terry Bradshaw.
thank you.
He
Thank
had-
you very much. I was thinking that. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're fine. He had 4 Super Bowl wins.
Mm-hmm.
2 of them were back-to-back.
Yep.
He won back-to-back. I can't remember the year, 74, 75, I think it was. Then they
That
missed
sounds
a
right.
year and then won the next 2.
Yeah. Because that was the whole
And that-
steel curtain
And
time frame.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
that was the
I
same,
mean-
then you can go, well, if Franco Harris hadn't have caught that ball, then they wouldn't have won that one. And it's still disputed whether Franco caught it off the top of the ground or not. But they didn't have 47 cameras like they do now to pick up a replay. They just, Franco had the ball, he's going.
Bye. See you.
They was talking to Terry Bradshaw before the Super Bowl about that. And he's like, I didn't see it. I got knocked out.
Yeah.
Because that's what happened to quarterbacks in that era.
He threw the ball and got
They
planted.
got knocked the fuck out.
Well, okay, so that game, that is the Immaculate Reception game.
Right, yeah.
AFC Championship game. The field was ice,
Mm-hmm.
and it was against my
Oakland Raiders.
Oakland Raiders.
Yep.
Because when they went back and they showed the film again from the end zone, it was a dead ball.
Okay, I hadn't seen
From-
that
from-
view. I'm not seeing that view, but yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
From the end zone,
Did they-
the camera from the end zone, it hit the ground before he caught it.
Did it actually show that, or was the view
Yes.
high enough where you couldn't see whether it hit the ground or not?
The Al Davis versus the NFL documentary on ESPN.
Right.
They had that camera angle, and they showed it
Okay.
because they were talking about that game.
There was
with
no
it
replay back then, so
Exactly.
yep.
Right.
And then another quarterback you got to look at, Joe Montana.
Oh yeah. You know.
4-0 in the Super Bowl. He never lost the Super Bowl.
Right.
And I should have looked this up before like you did. But I think he had at least 3 MVPs, Super Bowl MVPs. And I think he was accounted for 12 touchdowns in those 4
Yeah.
Super Bowls. And he played in an era, not in San Francisco, but other places where they played on asphalt with some indoor-outdoor carpeting on top of it. So, yeah.
AstroTurf.
His career didn't last 20 years because he had to play on that shit.
Right.
Well, because because his knees said, "You're done."
Yep.
Yeah, or
whatever.
Would you get picked
Ankles.
up? And he was also playing in an era when they could just kill the fucking quarterback.
Well, yeah. I mean, I
But
understand.
yeah, I mean, numbers wise, okay, Brady. But one thing Joe Montana had that Brady never had, Jerry Rice,
That is correct.
who is undisputed greatest wide receiver ever to play the game. I mean, you look at his numbers. I don't think we're going to live long enough to see anybody come close to those numbers.
So Kelsey became the number 2 in this Super Bowl. Travis Kelsey became the number 2 with the most touchdowns in the postseason.
Right.
He overcame Gronk.
Okay.
Travis Kelsey is number 2 to a Mr. Hall of Famer, Jerry Rice. And there's a big gap between.
Right.
We'll be
Kelsey.
talking what 4 or 5 or 4 500.
No, it's about 4 or 500.
It's about 20, 30.
No, you know, yeah,
It's obtainable, like Travis Kelsey overcoming Tony Gonzalez.
right.
But you know,
He's got his work
takes-
cut out for him, is what
Yes.
you're saying.
Yes.
They got to get back to postseason play.
Right, right.
You know. And there you go. You want to talk about that? We may be looking at the GOAT in Patrick Mahomes.
Possibly.
If
He's
can-
good.
I mean, he is really good. He's on pace. If he can stay healthy, and if they can keep that team together, maybe
Right,
not.
right.
I mean, through Brady's career, that team changed because
Yeah.
the Patriots didn't pay anybody anything
No.
except for Brady.
Yeah.
Guy's contract come up, was like, well, thanks.
Yeah.
They plugged somebody else in, but their system was so good. And they played in the worst division in football for most of those years, the AFC East.
Yes.
I mean, Miami hadn't done shit. Buffalo hadn't done shit. The New York Jets didn't do shit during that time. Now Buffalo's coming on, and that's
Yeah.
why.
Yeah, they were.
And that's why the
pretty
Patriots
salty.
were a wild card team.
Yeah.
You know, so it's going to get rougher. But the one constant you had was Bill Belichick that whole time.
Right.
And for a lot of that time, he had the guy that's coaching the Raiders now.
Oh yeah. Jeff McDermott. Or no.
No.
McDaniels.
Josh McDaniels.
Josh. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Josh. Whatever.
Yeah.
Close.
He didn't like Derek Carr.
Those were two constants that Brady had for a lot of those years.
Right.
You know.
And
But Brady was able to go on
right.
to a different system and win a Super Bowl in Tampa. So
And you know, and one of the stats that they didn't mention in this that Brady has over every quarterback of all time, the only quarterback to beat all 32 teams. Because as a Patriot, he had beat every team but the Patriots.
Yeah.
And then when he became a Buccaneer,
Then he beat the Patriots. So
Right.
all right,
Ta-da.
so now on to lesser known sports. Now, according to the world, football, or soccer as we call it here in America,
America.
Lionel Messi.
I've heard the name.
Yes.
do it on me, but
I think
oh
it's
well.
Messier, I think.
Yeah, Messier, whatever.
See. Okie
Yeah.
dokie.
Let's see here. Became the first player in history to score in every round from the groups and last 16 to the final confirmed. Okay, whatever.
Just name them.
Yeah. Tennis. Roger Federer.
Okay.
I've heard the name.
20 Grand Slams and 6 Tour final titles.
Okay.
All right. Golf. Who do you think?
Arnold Palmer.
No.
Well, if you count majors, you'd have to say Jack Nicklaus,
Kiki Rodriguez.
but they probably said Tiger Woods.
Jack Nicholas still holds the records for most major golf major titles with 18, but few will argue Tiger Woods being named the sport's GOAT.
Tiger changed the sport.
Yes.
Tiger made
I'd buy that.
kids that never watched golf want to play golf.
Winning 15 titles himself, Woods shot to stardom early on in his career and dazzled the world with his raw ability, blowing the field away in most major tournaments in the early 2000s. The reception he received on his return to St. Andrews this year, which brought him to tears, shows he is and will probably always be golf's greatest ever player to most fans.
Yeah. Like I say, I mean, it was like an old white guy sport
Yes.
until Tiger came along.
Oh, yeah.
And then everybody started watching golf. And more people. I mean, you can look at the statistics of golf merchandise sold. And after Tiger started hitting, everybody, well, not everybody, but a lot of people decided, fucking golf's cool.
Yeah.
You know, I remember watching a tournament once. It was him and
Kiki Rodriguez.
no.
Oh, sorry. Don't mind me.
Anyway, it doesn't matter. I can't remember the guy's name, but anyway, they tied. So they went into a playoff round. So they would go back to the 17th hole. If they tied there, they go back to the 18th hole. They'd done that 9 times.
Damn.
Oh,
Tiger would fuck up and hit one out in the fucking weeds. Sergio Garcia, that's who it was. He'd hit right down the middle, and you're like going, he's got this.
It's over.
Tiger would pull off a fucking miracle shot, get that son bitch up on the green and out of the woods.
He'd pull a rabbit out of his
They'd
hat.
tie. And it go back and forth, and finally Tiger won it.
Right.
You know, and it was like, we're sitting there watching it. It was like watching a Hitchcock movie. You're like, going, what the fuck? You know?
Oh, shit.
Now to go to across the pond, cricket.
Don't know nothing about cricket.
I can spell cricket. Does that count?
I know it lasts.
Don Bradman.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know anything about it.
Looks like between golf and baseball. To me, and I may be wrong.
But it lasts about 7 or 8 hours.
Oh, no.
It's not a great spectator sport.
No, thank you.
Boxing.
There they go. Every time somebody bring up boxing, some white guy got to pull Rocky Marciano out the ass.
Who do you think it is?
Who done the most for boxing and bringing boxing to the tip top? That you'd have to say Muhammad Ali.
Yeah, I'd buy that too.
Ali had an incredible political and cultural impact on the world during his career in the ring, which helps elevate him above others mentioned in the GOAT debate. He was fast, powerful, and hugely charismatic. He recorded 56 wins, 37 by knockout, losing 5 bouts. It's not the best record on paper, but the quality of the opponents.
His last 2 bouts, though, was the end of his career. And you look who he had to face back then. You know, he beat Sonny Liston for the title. Then he had to face George Foreman and Smoking Joe Frazier.
Yep.
I mean,
the Rumble in the Jungle.
You know, the list of, that was probably the golden era of heavyweight champions. Mm-hmm. Because here again, it's kind of like the Jordan thing.
Yep.
Foreman and Joe Frazier. If Ali hadn't have been there, one of them would be considered the greatest. You know. But as far as dominance through his relatively short career, Mike Tyson.
Yep.
I mean, that son of a bitch.
Youngest boxer ever to unify all 3 titles. Mm-hmm. 19 years old, and he was a 3-time world heavyweight champion, losing 0.
But if you want to look at other weight classes.
Oh, yeah.
Money Mayweather.
Yeah.
50-0. And a lot of people say, well, he don't get in there and trade punches. Where's he 51-0 now?
49.
I thought he got to 50. You'll have to look it up and put it up here.
Yeah.
But anyway, a lot of people were like, because I've listened to Rogan talk about him, and he's like, people like go, well, he don't get in there and mix up. the guy's probably been hit hard about 3 times in his whole career because his defense is so good.
Right.
Who's this?
Floyd Mayweather.
Okay, yeah, okay, yeah. Sorry.
Floyd Money Mayweather Jr.
Yep. Because
Okay.
he just, I mean, I watched the last fight with him and Pacquiao.
Yeah.
It was a snooze fest. It wasn't nothing exciting, but Floyd beat him. Just because, you know.
Well, and there was so many people that was just like, oh, well, Pacquiao had the flu and blah, blah, blah.
Hey, if he had the flu, why fight?
But,
Yeah.
and another guy, Sugar Ray Leonard. I mean, in the welterweight division back then, and there were some fucking killers in that fucking welterweight division. Roberto Duran. God, I'm going blank on names now, but he had some epic fucking fights.
Well, but
and what was funny about Sugar Ray, he didn't knock you out with one punch, but he'd throw a flurry, and the next thing you know, the dude's laying on the fucking ground. It's like, of course, he idolized Muhammad Ali.
Right. Well, and then there was the original Sugar Ray.
Sugar Ray Robinson.
Yep. Rugby.
But then Rocky Marciano was undefeated.
Rugby league. Meninga.
Okay, we'll stop. Rugby, what, the white football?
Yeah. It's kind of a fat, oblong-looking ball.
Australians.
Well, rugby, and then there's Australian rules football, but it's similar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you, man.
They do the scrum, kind of like the Vikings offensive line does when it's 4th and 1.
Yeah.
Will they get as low as they can possibly go?
All right, got you. Go ahead. Sorry, I didn't interrupt you.
And they play without pads.
Yeah.
And helmets.
17-year career, very top of rugby league. He is the only player to tour 4 times with Australia, and also the only one to ever captain them twice on separate tours. He played 517 first-grade games, scored 291 tries, and 3,255 points. He broke numerous records during his playing days and retired with the most appearances in the history of the Kangaroos, the greatest side in the sport.
Okay.
MMA.
Ooh. There's a lot of greats in MMA. I mean, the Gracie family, who brought Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu to the sport and proved that a grappler could whoop, well, that a smaller guy could beat a bigger guy, especially a grappler could beat a striker. But God, who do you is Fedor on the list? I mean, I don't know. Of course, Fedor never fought in UFC, I don't think. I think he fought in Bellator.
John Jones.
Okay.
Many men have entered the octagon, become a star, and claimed their spot in UFC history, but no one has ever done it like John Jones. His 26 wins and a single DQ loss due to an illegal elbow against Matt Hamill in 2009 set him apart.
It was a downward elbow.
Yep.
Which Rogan's talked about. He said that's stupid as fuck. You can throw a shin. You can, but you can't throw a downward elbow.
He's not a boring entertainer. He's a box office whenever his fights get announced. Despite his mishaps with performance-enhancing drugs, his 2 fights against Daniel Cormier are as tantalizing as Shakespeare. Darts.
What?
Phil Taylor.
Oh, boy. Darts.
Is he English?
We don't always like to go off stats and titles to pick a sporting goat, but you have to with Phil the Power Taylor. He won the World Darts Championship 16 times, 11 more than the next most successful player. Ask anyone with any knowledge of darts who the greatest is, and they'll pick Phil. No questions here.
and he sold 3 T-shirts his whole career.
And that was his family.
Exactly.
Snooker.
Minnesota Fats.
Yeah.
Ronnie O'Sullivan.
Gentleman's game.
You know, I've actually heard that name.
Yeah.
I've probably heard Rogan talk about him because he's a pool player.
Snooker's a gentleman's game.
Yes. And
More precise.
It is. The last one on the list that I have,
Oh, boy.
Formula One.
Schumacher. No?
Lewis Hamilton.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
It's between Lewis Hamilton and Michael Schumacher. For us, we're going for the Brit. They've won the same number of F1 titles, but Lewis won his first at a younger age than the German, and his last at an older age, meaning his spread of success came across a longer era. Hamilton also has the most podium finishes.
So we have more chances.
Yeah, and the most race wins.
Well, on the racing line, let's talk about NASCAR.
Okay.
There's only 3 names in NASCAR that you can say are the GOAT, and that's because they're all tied for 7 Cup championships.
Yes.
The King, Richard Petty. The Intimidator,
Dale Earnhardt.
Dale Earnhardt. And Jimmy Johnson.
As of this recording, 22 years ago today, we lost Dale Earnhardt.
Yep. Moment of silence.
Okay.
So what it be? You can look at King Richard had 200 victories, the most in NASCAR history
Okay.
in the Cup Series. But back early in the Cup Series, a lot of those races today would be considered Grand National races.
Right.
So if you look at 200 victories, Kyle Busch has 200 victories. From trucks to Xfinity, they call it now,
Right.
and Cup. The competition really wasn't as stiff back then. I mean, you had more cars.
Yeah.
I mean, I think some Daytona 500s had like 75 cars. But Richard Petty had the best equipment on the track, you know.
Right.
Right.
But still, 200 victories, 7 championships. Dale Earnhardt, I can't remember. I think it was like 83 victories. Probably changed the sport more just because when Dale was winning his championships, things were getting more on an even keel.
Yep.
I mean, yeah, the big teams had an advantage because they had more money to spend, but the rules were getting to where the cars were more the same.
Right.
Jimmy Johnson done something that the other 2 never did. He won 5 in a row.
Right.
There was a 7-year period where only 2 guys won the Cup championship. That was Tony Stewart and Jimmy Johnson. Because Tony won it, then Johnson won the next 5, and then Tony won it again.
Yeah.
As a car owner. And in an era where the competition was a lot tougher, so and I never rooted for Jimmy Johnson. I wasn't a Johnson fan. I was a Stewart fan. But to me, Jimmy Johnson is the GOAT in NASCAR.
Now, an argument could be made.
I mean, Richard Petty's still the king.
Right.
Dale Earnhardt's still the Intimidator. But Johnson's the GOAT.
Now, it's been said in some circles that Dale should have had 8 and Petty only 6.
Yeah.
Dale's rookie year, he outscored Richard, but because he was a rookie, he was given Rookie of the Year, and Petty was given the Cup. Winston Cup at that time.
Another thing in Johnson's favor, he won by the old points system.
Yep.
And he won by the revised point system, and he won in the era where they started doing the chase.
Yep.
So it's like they kept trying to change the rules. I mean, the competition of his own teammates was probably greater than what Richard faced early on in his career.
Right.
I mean, because you had Jeff Gordon, and I can't remember the other two. I mean, there was those kind of I mean, Kyle Busch was a teammate for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, that 4-car team, if you put that back in the 60s, would have just dominated everything.
Well, and there was no, like, back in the 60s, there was no teams.
No. Well, you remember Days of Thunder. In the early 90s, whenever they brought the second car in there, he's like, what is this? There's too many roosters in the hen house.
Funny
who you rooting for on Sunday?
Funny you should say that. Kevin Harvick was on Dale Jr.'s Dirty Mo podcast.
Oh, yeah.
And he was talking about leading up to Daytona 2001. Harvick tested a lot of cars because Dale didn't like to do it.
Right.
Didn't want to do it. And they had already had the number 29, but it was identical to Dale's. And Kevin was going to race it. A few races.
Right, yeah,
in the
limited
season.
schedule, yeah. Because he was full-time Busch Series at that time.
Yes. And then after the accident, and he was thrust in there, and they changed the paint color to white. You know what? For Earnhardt fans are the most diehard.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they remind me.
They're like Slayer fans.
They're like Raiders fans of the 70s.
Well, yeah. Or Slayer fans.
Yes. So I can only imagine how bad it was for Kevin Harvick.
Well, when he won that race, I'm trying to remember, was it Darlington but it was a few races after Dale died. And he won that race. And he made the victory lap with the 3 fingers out the window.
Yeah.
You know, I think that kind of warmed the Earnhardt fans to him.
Yeah.
Maybe, you know. Which he's retiring after this year.
Yeah.
He's going into the Fox booth next year.
Yep. Speaking of going into the Fox booth, Brady. So everybody that watched the Super Bowl this year, Greg Olson is getting the boot.
Good, because he could not leave that fucking holding call alone. Defensive holding.
Yeah.
Even when their rules official said, you grab the jersey, you're going to get it called.
Yeah.
Well, at this point in the game, they shouldn't call that penalty. This is going to change the game. Blah 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 blah. Well,
it was a controversial call, and it just gave the game to the Chiefs. That's how it was rigged. No. The guy, I don't even remember the Eagles' name, but he admitted on social media,
right?
Yes, I did it, and I was hoping they wouldn't see it.
Right. It was one of them deals. I did it because he was going to score if I didn't.
Right. But
that happens all the time.
Right. But I mean, at the same time, I Jet McKinnon for the Kansas City Chiefs gave up that Super Bowl ball.
Right.
To have up on his mantle, I scored a touchdown in the Super Bowl with that bull, kids.
Yep. But he could say, I took a knee and we won. I bet he got the game. Got a game ball.
The one time taking a knee for a football team actually panned out.
Right.
I know. It sounds shitty. It's shitty to say, but I mean that. And Travis and Jason talked about it on their podcast. But I mean, it's just like that shows how much talent the guy has.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't wrapped up in the moment. I'm a fucking yard away. And I mean, and that's just it. It wasn't even a fucking yard.
Right.
He was within that 1 yard line of, I mean, honestly, he could have just fucking, fell forward.
Right.
And touchdown.
I was listening to some guys today, and they were talking about that. So we practiced that the whole time. He said, and I know that what was being said was, you know, because basically the Eagles was giving it to him.
Yeah.
And so in that situation, you get the first down, take the knee.
Yep.
Let's run this clock down. They said, well, weren't you worried about the kicker missing because he'd missed one earlier? And it's like, you're inside the 3. And those guys are usually automatic.
Yes.
If he'd have missed, it went to overtime, they'd be saying, McKinnon was a fucking idiot. He should have scored. But if
Right.
he'd have scored, and then the Eagles would have went down and scored, got a 2-point conversion because nobody could stop that fucking scrum that they do.
That quarterback sneak of Jalen Hurt and the Eagles.
And they'd have lost the Super Bowl, then you'd be like, oh, go ball.
Yeah. Right.
I don't have a ring.
Well, they would have had an AFC championship ring.
Right, but they wouldn't have the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have the big ring.
Yeah.
So there's one sport we haven't talked about yet.
Okay.
Professional wrestling. If you want to call it a sport. Who is your GOAT in professional wrestling?
I mean, there's only one person. You know, if statistics show, there's only one person.
Well, there's one guy tied with him. Different era.
Yeah, but there's only one guy. He is the first face, front and center on the Mount Rushmore of professional wrestling of all time. And that's the Nature Boy, Ric Flair. Woo! Being you have the internet now on your TV, you got to find Woo becoming Ric Flair. It's a documentary with
Rick. That's the newest one, isn't it? I've heard him talk about it on his podcast.
Oh, my God. To see, I mean, you actually get to see his 2 kids that have never, you know, it's not Charlotte, it's not David.
Mm-hmm. Not Reed. This Reed was the one that passed away.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because David you saw in WCW, Charlotte you see in WWE.
Reed was a hell of an amateur and everything, and he was probably going to be
state champion.
He was probably going to be a hell of a professional wrestler, but I think he overdosed or something.
Yeah. And Charlotte wouldn't be, or Ashley, if you will.
Right.
Ashley Fleer.
Right.
She wouldn't be in wrestling if it wasn't for Reed.
Mm-hmm. Because she never wanted to be a wrestler.
Right. She was just athletic.
Right.
Oh, another obscure sport. One that isn't talked about a lot.
Powerboat racing?
No.
Oh.
Greatest Olympian of all time.
Michael Phelps.
Yep.
I mean, if you're counting gold medals or championships, then
nobody.
If he puts all his gold medals around his neck and jumps in the pool, he's dead.
Yeah.
He's drowning.
Well, and when he retired, he had that photo shoot, and he had all of his golds.
I mean, it was Mark Spitz for years.
Yes.
It was 7. What did Phelps end up with? Is it 14 or I forget. It was just unreal.
Oh, yeah.
Greatest almost Olympian. Fought in the MMA for, Jesus Christ. Been in several movies. He was in the new Scorpion King movie that sucked. God damn it. Fought in the UFC. But he was a 4-time Olympic first alternate in wrestling.
I remember you talking about him.
That's 16-year span.
Yeah.
that he was the first alternate. God damn it! I'll think of it later.
Yeah. Well,
Somebody watching this in a day or two might be going, "You dumb fuck, that's what's his name." Former UFC heavyweight champion.
yeah. If you have any comments, any constructive criticism, tell us we're doing good, tell us we're doing bad, whatever. Leave
Thumbs
us a
up, thumb down.
comment.
Yeah.
Leave us a comment. Make sure that you share and subscribe. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, or anywhere else you get your podcasts. And I think we've pretty much hit the nail on the head for...
So, Brady's the GOAT in the NFL.
Yep.
Babe Ruth in baseball.
Yep. Jordan in the NBA.
Jordan in the NBA.
Gretzky in the
Gretzky.
NHL.
Yep.
NHL.
Gretzky in NHL. Tiger in golf.
The Nature Boy.
The Nature Boy, Ric Flair, for professional wrestling.
Yep.
Michael Phelps,
Michael Phelps.
greatest Olympian.
Greatest boxer.
Muhammad Ali. Don Federer, greatest. I know that
Tennis.
name. Tennis, yes, there it is.
Roger Federer.
Yeah, Roger.
Not Don Federer. Don Fielder's a guitar player for the Eagles.
Yes.
I always got to get some music in there somewhere.
Yeah, and Ronnie O'Sullivan, greatest snooker player of all time, and Phil Taylor, Phil the Power Taylor, greatest darts player.
Dartman extraordinaire.
But you've just watched another episode of Stu Productions Presents.
J&M, Solve the World. I have been James.
And I've been Matt. And on behalf of Andrew,
I'm Andy.
you keep one fist in the gold, one foot in the gutter, and we will see you later.
Peace.